The long-running legal battle between Porsche and Singer has finally come to an end. The case was closed on the 9th of April in a report provided to the Commissioner of Patents and Trademarks.
What happened? Because apparently it's a big deal.
But have Porsche put their lawyers away for good, put them in the box and put them to bed? Or are they out in the shadows looking for their next case? I'm Scott from Outlaw Garage, and today we're exploring, have Porsche really put their lawyers to bed, or are they after you?
He's a lawyer too?
Ma'am, I was already a blood-sucking parasite. All I needed was a briefcase.
Now, on our last video of Porsche versus Singer, we received a lot of private messages and comments and emails.
I know a guy who knows a guy who knows another guy.
Some of this related to the Porsche versus Singer case, but some of it also related to Porsche resto mods, replicas, and modifications to 911s, 356s, and 550 Spiders. Have Porsche put their lawyers away, or are we starting to see the beginning of something more serious? Now, to protect the identity of some of the individuals that have sent us information, we are going to keep some of the specific details out of the video, and the word allegedly should be used predominantly throughout this video. However, this is information provided to us by enthusiasts, garages, and people that have restored and modified their own cars. As we delve into some of the detail that we've received, why not start at the beginning? Why not start with a Porsche 356 and the 550 Spider? Now, the Porsche 356 and the 550 Spider are very common Porsche models to become replicas. Prices of a Porsche 356 and 550 Spider have skyrocketed over the years. If you're looking for the classic Porsche vintage experience, a replica might be your only option. Here in Australia, the UK, and the US, replicas can be seen everywhere. But are they as safe as they used to be? And have they now caught the attention of Porsche? Regarding the handful of people that have reached out to us, specifically related to Porsche 356 and 550 Spider replicas, the issue seems to be when these cars come up for sale and how they're advertised. Porsche don't seem to be concerned that these cars are being manufactured. It's more about how these cars are advertised and sold on the open market. If the advert contains the words Porsche 356 or 550 Spider, in certain circumstances, Porsche have taken serious offence to this. In one case specifically related to a 550 Spider, Porsche allegedly claimed that the advert was misleading and that a customer or prospective buyer could consider this potentially to be an original Porsche 550 Spider. Now, I've bumped into a few replicas in my time, and there are very, very few of them that you would really find it difficult to identify between the original and a replica. And let's just assume, in many cases, the price tag is phenomenally different. But in this case, where it has Porsche badging and advertised as a Porsche, it's definitely attracted the attention of the Porsche lawyers. At the end of this video, we'll talk about some of the alleged restrictions and fines that have been imposed by Porsche on individuals and companies that have been perceived to breach Porsche's copyright and trademark. Stick around to the end of the video because this gets a little bit scary. Now, you might think Porsche have a reasonable point when it comes to building replicas, but what about resto mods and modifying your own Porsche 911? Singer appear to have come to an agreement with Porsche. We've got RWB. Roof received a load of questions on our last video. And then there's all the restoration and resto mod shops across the world. I don't know of an independent Porsche garage that doesn't do some form of modification to a 911. Aftermarket parts, custom liveries, modifications to the interior and exterior, mods to the engine. It's happening every day. But where's the line, and when do you start attracting the attention of the Porsche lawyers? Well, that line seems really blurred, and it appears to also matter what country you're actually in. Like we said previously, if you're in Australia, the UK, the US, you can't turn around without bumping into a modified 911. But is this the case in Europe? If Porsche are playing in their home ground in Germany, does that make a difference? From what we've seen, all the cases that have been sent to us are all related to European cars. Be this Germany, Switzerland, just across Europe, This seems to be an increasing problem. But is it coming to your country soon? Now, this is a really hard video to make, and genuinely, I am a little bit worried. I am a Porsche enthusiast, but what I have to share really impacts everybody in the Porsche scene. And although it may appear that it's happening in a country far, far away from you, what are the implications if this starts to spread? The impacts on the Porsche culture and the Porsche scene could be huge. Air-cooled has its own following, its own vibe, and the ability to modify these air-cooled Porsches is what brings a lot of people to the scene. It breaks the stigma that Porsche is just for the rich and snobby upper class. You can drive around in a rat rod, a modified Porsche. You do not have to have the exact factory example of your air-cooled 911 to be accepted into the scene. Take a look at our bare metal Porsche 356, for example. Like I said, this might seem a long way from you, but it could get close really quickly. So other alleged examples where the Porsche lawyers have been called in. A 1977 Porsche 911 modified into an electric Porsche 911. Displayed at a car show in Germany, confiscated by Porsche, allegedly only 2 years ago. Now I know what you're thinking. It's an air-cooled Porsche 911 that's been converted to an electric car and it should be confiscated. But at what point do you draw the line? Fundamentally, it's a modified air-cooled Porsche 911. Regardless of what anybody's done to it, do you think it should be confiscated? Or is this the tip of the iceberg and could the problem just get bigger? A modified Porsche 911, resto mod, recreation, reconstruction, a narrow body car now with wide arches, a vintage racing livery, modified engine, and modified interior. Now I can't show you the pictures of this car. However, there is no way anybody would look at this car and think it came out of the factory looking like this. This originally was a narrow-bodied, air-cooled Porsche 911. Now it's got fat hips. It is a resto mod Outlaw Porsche 911. But Porsche in Europe didn't quite see it that way. And at one point, this car nearly got destroyed. This car was a lightweight resto mod Outlaw. A driving weight of 900 kilograms, which I gotta say would make that a fun car. Modified ignition, forged engine components, 915 transmission and a limited slip diff, coilovers, and a racing setup. This early 1970s Porsche 911 didn't leave the factory looking or driving like this. Now I could go to any Porsche track day here in Melbourne or anywhere in Australia, and I suspect it's exactly the same for the UK and the US, and see modified cars like this everywhere. The racing buggers bit, and people want a unique style on their air-cooled Porsche 911. Many of these people have owned these cars for over 10 years. It's become part of them. That style of that car is them. The car that we're talking about here is no different than I would see out on the street any weekend here in Melbourne. But again, it comes down to the Porsche badging, the Porsche crest of arms, copyright and trademark. This car was nearly destroyed. If confiscating a car isn't bad enough, how do we feel about them getting destroyed? So you get a letter from Porsche. They're nice, polite, ask you to stop what you're doing, and everybody goes on their merry way. Well, it ain't actually like that.
Who is it?
I'm here to serve you with a subpoena.
Well, I'm not opening the door.
Now let's talk about fines. If you receive one of these letters, the equivalent in Australian dollars is $400,000. That is the first number you are going to see on that letter. That's approximately 270,000 US dollars. Now again, this is allegedly, but the first number is a big number you see on those letters. Ultimately though, that's the big hit. Lawyers are known for trying to whack you hard right at the start. From all the messages we've received, ultimately the fine ends up being around 16,000 Australian dollars to 10,000 US. Now that's just for the fine. Let's assume going backwards and forwards with a lawyer isn't cheap either. And that's just the beginning. In some cases, Porsche have wanted the car destroyed. This to me is absolutely heartbreaking. It just doesn't reflect the culture or the community that we really want with Porsche. The brand is hand in hand with its classics and its modern cars. Air-cooled Porsches are a part of history. They're the reason why many of us get up early on a weekend and enjoy the weekend. The reason why we've made friends that will last a lifetime. Destroying these cars is just not in our essence. Fortunately though, in the cases that we've been provided, they've been able to negotiate with Porsche that these cars are not destroyed, that these cars are really just rebadged. But it's scary to think we could get to that point. Cease and desists have been issued, and companies and individuals have had to sign obligations to say that they will never make cars like this again. These obligations can last for 2 years, however, can last a lifetime. Now, to be fair to Porsche, in some circumstances that we've been sent, if you breach your obligations within that 2-year period, the obligation will be extended to lifetime. So you made a commitment and you perhaps didn't uphold that commitment. But should that commitment have been there in the first place? So it appears the door is still open for the Porsche lawyers. Modifications, outlaws, resto mods are all at risk. Now, absolutely, we are not seeing this in Australia, and I haven't heard of anything in the US or the UK. This predominantly seems to be a European issue. And if you do a Google search, none of these cases actually come up. That might be how they're tracked in Europe and how easy it is to get hold of that information. Or they might be sealed and their information is genuinely difficult to get. But we've had a number of people that have confidentially shared with us their paperwork from Porsche. So where does that put us? And what does that really mean for the Porsche community? Ultimately, as enthusiasts, we don't want to be in the position of having to either recall, remove, or destroy modified Porsches. Resto mods and outlaws have their place in the Porsche community, alongside factory day one examples. This is the Porsche community and enthusiasts that we're talking about here. Now, this got a lot of feedback in our last video, but Porsche are trying to protect their brand and their trademark from any form of dilution. The courts are clearly upholding Porsche's trademark rights, emphasizing the clear identification of modifications to not mislead customers and buyers. And it's clear, all the rulings that we've seen, that modified vehicles should not bear the original Porsche trademark branding, unless additional labelling clarifies these modifications. The courts have justified these rulings based on trademark laws and past declarations. Again, brand dilution and the rigour that Porsche have on chasing anything at the moment which is outside what they consider to be part of the Porsche brand. Now, the last video we did on this got a lot of comments on the video and on our Instagram page. What do you think of this? Comment below. It is concerning that this is just in Europe at the moment, but that might just be the tip of the iceberg. So we've got fines, cease and desists.
Was it worth it?
People being banned from doing restorations, modifications, and resto mods in the future. Should this bother the Porsche community and Porsche enthusiasts? Or is it just really a blip? My concern is that we should start to get a little bit worried. Thanks for watching. And as a Porsche enthusiast and driver, I am genuinely a little bit concerned about how this video might be taken. But it's so important to talk about things. We've received so many messages from people that had had really unpleasant experiences with a set of Porsche lawyers. Thanks for your time, and I genuinely hope you enjoyed this video. And we hope to be back very soon, and we hope this video stays up.